New launch prices are at all-time high. Given the abundance of options right now, including over 40 new launches and existing projects in 2023, how can you safeguard your new launch purchase during uncertain times like this if you are intending to buy one? And how do you know if developer will actually drop their price? Hello everyone, I'm Vivian and welcome back to my channel. If you are uncertain about whether to proceed with your purchase or wait to see if prices stabilize, thereby risking the possibility of losing your preferred unit, or worse yet, buying at a higher price, then this video is for you. Today you will discover how to minimize your risk when purchasing a new launch property, as I cover 3 essential factors that determine whether a developer will increase or lower their prices. To start with, the first key factor to consider is the number or percentage of units that have been sold. For instance, let's assume that you are evaluating a project that was launched 2 years ago and has already sold 80% of its inventory. This typically indicates that the developer is highly confident and has mostly secured their funding from the banks. The remaining 20% of the units are likely to be priced for profits with minimal chances of a price reduction. However, to make a more informed decision, it's crucial to understand the pricing of the initial 80% sold. The second key factor is to examine the recent sales performance of the development, including the weekly number of units sold and its overall progress. If the developer is experiencing healthy sales volume, such as selling 5 to 10 units per week, it is highly unlikely that they will decrease their prices. Developers behave just like any ordinary sellers, and by putting ourselves in their shoes, we can understand and predict their behavior. For example, if you were a seller, would you lower your prices if your product sells well? I guess not, right? On the contrary, if the project is not selling well, then developers may choose to lower the price provided there is a margin to work with based on their break-even price to make it more attractive to potential buyers. The last factor is the profit margin of developer. In my previous video, I've explained the importance of break-even price. So in summary, it means that if the developer sells above the break-even price, they will make a profit, while selling below, it will lead to a loss. Take Margaretville at Queenstown for example, which has a break-even price of 1,551 PSF. In June 2018, the property market was experiencing a strong period of growth and there was a shortage of brand new properties. Subsequently, the developer released their units at an average of 1,889 PSF, and entering during this period would mean that you are buying close to $400 above break-even. Shortly after, there was an implementation of cooling measures. Your LTV goes down and ABSD goes up. This resulted in dampening of buyers' demand, causing developer to revise their price. The average PSF went from 1,889 PSF initially down to 1,678 PSF. Now, if we pay closer attention to the price chart, you will notice that whenever transaction prices go close to the developer's break-even, prices will tend to slowly increase. However, what happens if you are buying into a newly launched development? With no transactions to refer to, what can you do? Take Forest Woods, which is located at Lorong Lew Lian and has a break-even price of 1,200 PSF. At that time, many other projects were being launched in the market, so the developer had to be extra cautious and price the units strategically to attract buyers. At the point of launch, they were actually selling between 7 to 20 units monthly, and prices were hovering around 1,300 PSF. This also means the developer was looking at a thin margin at around 100 to 150 PSF based on the break-even of $1,200 PSF. This profit margin is actually not substantial given the extensive processes they have to go through to sell a development. Understandably, the prices were not able to continue to stay low, and as a result, once a certain percentage of sales is achieved, there was a gradual increase in prices. This is why, if you are a buyer entering at a low point due to the initial stages, you most likely will be able to benefit from this as the developer gradually increases prices in phases, effectively pushing up the value of your property. To further explain what I mean, let's zoom into this particular stack in Forest Woods. During launch in 2016, 9th floor was transacted at 1.277 million. About 8 months later, its neighbours downstairs on the 8th floor transacted at 1.317 million. Obviously, over here there has been a price increment as a higher floor should be sold at a higher price. 6 months later, a developer increased their prices again and the second floor unit, which should rightfully cost a lot lesser, transacted at 1.442 million. Then in March 2018, 5th floor was sold at 1.455 million. The last unit to be sold on this stack was the 4th floor, which transacted at 1.547 million, which is $270,000 difference from the price of the 9th floor unit. In a matter of 2 years, prices within the same stack surged by 21%. From these two case studies, we can see that it is quite common for most people to feel that entering the market during the initial phase also means prices are at their lowest, which is also known as the early bird pricing. However, this initial phase has proven to be uncertain and you might still be entering at a high. To reduce the risk, it might be safer to consider purchasing during the second or third phase, as by this point you will have a clearer understanding of the project's sales performance and the developer's profit margin would still be acceptable. To end off, if the project you have selected already has a high percentage sold with frequent weekly or monthly transactions and close to break-even price, it is relatively safe to enter as developer is unlikely to reduce their prices. If a project is at a stage where there is a low number of units sold with high profit margins, you definitely have to take note and do your research to understand if your purchase is risky. Similarly, if the percentage of units sold and profit margin is high, you still have to be very careful as this will affect your exit. Choosing the right property requires consideration of several other critical factors which I have not mentioned here. So if you are looking for a customized plan, do reach me at my contact methods below and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.